I have replayed those 10 minutes so many times that I could probably recite them in my sleep frame by frame like a movie I never wanted to watch twice. 10 minutes. That is all it took for 19 years of marriage to crack open right there in a grocery store parking lot under fluorescent lights and the smell of rotisserie chicken. Drop a comment and let me know where you are listening from and what time it is for you right now. Have you ever had a single ordinary moment where your entire life cracked completely open? Let me know your thoughts below. I stood near the automated sliding doors of the Green Valley Co-op Market on Grand Avenue. The heavy canvas straps of 2 double-stitched organic grocery totes were cutting deep into my forearms, the weight pulling at my shoulders. Justin had stepped outside exactly 12 minutes ago. He claimed a critical risk assessment anomaly required an immediate private call regarding a corporate escrow lock. I did not text him to hurry up. I did not panic. When Raymond, the 67-year-old facility safety supervisor, approached me, my survival instinct overrode any confusion. Raymond had the rigid, deliberate posture of a retired military policeman. He looked at me with an intense, rehearsed gravity in his eyes. He did not speak loudly. He simply gestured for me to follow him, his face drawn tight with a heavy, unasked apology. I walked with him toward the restricted employee corridor near the back pharmacy layout. I did not drop a single grocery bag. The heavy metal doors marked employees only clicked shut behind us, sealing out the hum of the store. We entered a small, cluttered surveillance hub that smelled of ozone and stale coffee. The monitors flickered with clinical, black and white feeds of the loading docks and restricted corridors. Raymond leaned over the control deck and hit play. I watched the screen with absolute, unblinking stillness. There was Justin, my husband. He was standing in a restricted back hallway, closely positioned next to a woman I would later learn was Samantha Vance, a 42-year-old corporate legal consultant. There was no explicit, scandalous physical intimacy on the grainy footage, but there did not need to be. Their body language broadcast an intimate, long-term familiarity that required absolutely no words. The slight, synchronized tilt of his head, the way her hand hovered with casual ownership near his wrist. Raymond sighed heavily, the sound scraping against the quiet room. He told me he had tracked their meetings in this corridor for months. He looked at the linoleum floor and quietly confessed that he wished someone had warned his late wife about the truth decades ago. My retaliation began in that tiny room, not with screaming or shattered glass, but with the cold, internal locking of a strategic gate. I did not cry. I did not ask why. I just thanked Raymond calmly, adjusted the brutal weight of the canvas totes on my arms, and walked back out into the bright, fluorescent store. I exited into the parking lot. Justin was waiting by our navy blue vehicle, casually checking his watch. I smiled a blank, flawless smile as he easily took the grocery bags from my hands, apologizing smoothly for the long work call. I nodded and said absolutely nothing on the drive home. The drive down Grand Avenue was thick with a heavy, suffocating normalcy. I sat in the passenger seat, tracing the invisible outlines of my own life, while the rhythm of the tires hummed against the wet pavement. I systematically mapped out my role as the quiet bedrock of Justin's security. For 7 years, my specialized commercial architectural rendering contracts had been the primary, silent engine of our financial liquidity. I spent countless nights staring at digital blueprints until my vision blurred, drafting structural models for skyscrapers, while my high-value design work quietly funded his expensive dry cleaning runs and covered the property taxes on our shared portfolio. I had been the invisible scaffolding that allowed him to build his executive standing as a senior risk assessment manager. I had normalized his micro-habits over the years, the charcoal Henley shirt he wore on weekends, the automated, thoughtless forehead kisses by the serial layout, the highly calculated, opaque ways he managed our shared accounts. My silence had not been a sign of weakness. It had been the architecture of my trust. But sitting in that car, listening to him hum a cheerful tune along to the radio, I recognized the terrifying trap of compassionate desensitization. It is a slow, silent, psychological phenomenon. Victims of long-term relational predators gradually normalize a cold, transactional environment to protect an illusion of family stability. You absorb the slight neglects, the unexplained absences, the shifted boundaries. You do it because your mind is desperately trying to keep the domestic unit functional. You tell yourself that his demanding career requires patience. You convince yourself that the emotional distance is just a temporary phase. That compassionate desensitization is exactly what white-collar predators manipulate. They weaponize your own deep empathy to buy themselves the structural execution time they need to dismantle your life right in front of your eyes. I remembered a sharp, ugly argument from the early days of our marriage. I had noticed an anomaly in our accounts, a missing $500. Justin had condescendingly told me to stop reacting emotionally and to always study statistical patterns instead of throwing a hysterical fit. As he parked the car in our driveway, turning off the ignition with a satisfied sigh, I decided I would follow his advice to the exact letter. Anger was not loud this time. It was clinical. This was no longer a marriage. It was a hostile corporate merger, a balance sheet covered in red ink, and I was about to audit every single line. That night, the psychological warfare entered my bedroom. Justin went about his evening routine with an unnervingly relaxed demeanor, chatting about a new podcast he had discovered. But as he climbed into bed, I witnessed a tactical shift. The blue light of his screen cast a ghostly glow across his face before he deliberately slid his mobile device entirely face down beneath his memory foam pillow. He drifted off to sleep within minutes, his breathing deep and even. Most people would have shaken him awake. Most people would have launched useless, emotionally charged accusations across the dark room, demanding access to the phone. I refused. Confrontation without documentation is exactly how vulnerable women lose their equity. The next morning, I drove to a corner pharmacy across town and purchased a plain black ledger using cash, ensuring there would be no digital receipt. I tucked it safely beneath a stack of old, heavy design portfolios in my studio and began meticulously logging the data points of his changing behavior. He was a senior risk assessment manager, but arrogance was making him sloppy. Within a fortnight, he altered his digital access protocols twice. He began stepping out onto the glass-enclosed back porch to hold low-volume conversations, his voice dropping instantly to a hurried whisper whenever my shadow fell across the sliding door. He arrived home late on a Thursday, claiming a massive client crisis had kept him at the office, but his expensive wool coat smelled of seared scallops, truffle oil, and oak-aged wine, a distinct, high-end restaurant aroma I had never seen on our shared banklogs. He repeatedly referenced a mysterious new tech client called Vance & Associates, dropping the name casually to establish a baseline alibi. Every anomaly went into the black ledger. Dates, times, excuses, weather conditions, and the exact durations of his absences. I was no longer a wife seeking validation. I was an investigator gathering intelligence on a hostile entity. The following week, I executed my first calculated countermaneuver. I told Justin I had a mandatory corporate presentation dinner for a new architectural client. It was the first structural lie I had told him in our years together, and the words tasted like ash and iron in my mouth. Instead of driving downtown, I navigated through the evening rain to a commercial plaza off Route 9. I parked my car deep in the heavy shadow of a dry cleaner's awning, granting me a clear line of sight through the rhythmic sweep of my windshield wipers to the glowing neon sign of the Foundry Espresso Bar. At exactly 7:15, Justin walked through the glass doors in his tailored charcoal suit. 10 minutes later, Samantha Vance arrived. I recognized her instantly from Raymond's security footage. I sat in the damp darkness and watched them through the cafe window for 40 minutes. The transaction was completely devoid of physical romance. It looked strictly logistical, mechanical, and corporate. They passed thick manila folders back and forth across the small table. Justin pointed to printed spreadsheets with a silver pen while Samantha nodded, her expression serious, tight, and calculating. This was not a passionate affair born of a momentary lapse in judgment. It was an infrastructure meeting. It was a hostile corporate takeover of my life. The next morning, I took my black ledger and shifted my response from tactical observation to high-level legal warfare. I retained Catherine, a fierce corporate estate attorney known for her surgical precision in the courtroom, and Marcus, a clinical forensic financial auditor whose entire career was built on dismantling white-collar illusions. We convened inside Catherine's skyline glass suite, the room smelling of lemon polish and expensive espresso. I handed Marcus the black ledger and gave him full, unredacted access authorizations to every joint account, tax filing, and property deed bearing our names. Marcus did not offer me pity, he offered me mathematics. He simply nodded and went to work. Over the next few days, he built a comprehensive, chronological transaction map covering the past 5 years of our shared assets. When he projected his findings onto the glowing screen in Catherine's office, the scope of the betrayal struck me like a physical blow to the chest. The spreadsheet looked like a digital autopsy report. Marcus had uncovered an intricate, multi-tier financial pipeline hidden beneath layers of dummy invoices. Every second Tuesday and fourth Thursday, acting with absolute clockwork precision, Justin had systematically leaked sums between $5,500 and $6,500 out of his independent business accounts. The funds were funneled directly into an unverified holding shell called Green Valley Consulting Group. The entity had zero digital footprint. There was no website, no legitimate client roster, no valid corporate operations, and no physical office. The registered agent for the shell company was Samantha Vance. Marcus highlighted the bottom line in a blinding neon yellow. The total extracted marital capital hit a staggering $720,000. $720,000 of my late-night architectural rendering income, quietly siphoned away, drop by drop, to fund an invisible future. Marcus turned off the projection and looked at me across the polished table. He explained the terrifying concept of the illusion of tangible wealth. Financial manipulators at the executive level do not just hide money, they engineer a parallel reality. They use a performative display of domestic security to mask their asset-stripping pipeline. Justin brought home casual flowers on random Tuesdays. He praised my design projects in front of our friends. He projected shared retirement dreams about buying a quiet cabin in the mountains. He purchased a brushed nickel espresso machine for our kitchen, while simultaneously stealing thousands. He did all of this to ensure I felt so secure, so comfortably loved, that I would never look closely at the active data architecture of his extraction. The illusion of tangible wealth is the ultimate psychological weapon because it feeds the victim's need for security while silently emptying the vault. He was using affection as an anesthetic while he drained the lifeblood from our shared accounts. He was preparing his pristine exit strategy while leaving me completely blind and financially hollowed out. But the anesthetic had finally worn off, and I was wide awake. Just when I thought the depth of his betrayal had reached its absolute limit, Marcus dropped the definitive kill-shot discovery, shifting the battle from a bitter marital asset division into a brutal criminal arena. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Catherine called me back to her glass suite. The rain lashed against the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting grey, distorted shadows across the room. Marcus was already there, spreading a series of highly classified corporate charter documents across the dark mahogany table. He asked me to sit down before he pushed the focal document toward me with a solemn, silent nod. Staring at the corporate filing papers, my eyes scanned the black ink until I uncovered the true, horrifying architecture of the fraud. Justin had not just sheltered our money in a basic, anonymous corporate shell. He had crossed a moral boundary that eradicated any remaining shred of humanity in our marriage. The Green Valley Consulting entity was built using an old, inactive, offshore corporate tax identification code. I stared at the numerical lineage printed on the page. It belonged explicitly to my late father's estate. When my father passed away 5 years ago, leaving me drowning in grief, Justin had stepped in as the supportive, capable husband. He had offered to handle the complex, bureaucratic closing of the probate accounts, claiming he wanted to spare me the administrative grief so I could mourn in peace. I had trusted him completely with my family's legacy. Instead, he used his high-level risk assessment clearance to meticulously forge my signature on grandfathered estate waiver documents. He had reactivated a dead man's lineage to build a ghost pipeline. I traced the curves of my forged signature with a trembling finger, noting the slight, calculated hesitation on the letter Y. He had sat across from me at the dinner table, eating the food I cooked, comforting me when I cried over my father's memory, while actively weaponizing my own family bloodline against me. He used my darkest moment of grief to plant the seeds of his financial empire. He shifted $720,000 directly under Samantha Vance's legal architecture, using my father's ghost as an impenetrable shield. This removed any baseline for reconciliation or mercy. It was no longer a story of a husband losing his way or falling out of love. It was a distinct, highly calculated criminal scheme. It was a structural violation of my ancestry. Catherine watched my face harden. She told me that Samantha Vance, as a corporate legal consultant, had to know the origins of the tax identification number. They were willing co-conspirators in a federal-level forgery. Every ounce of grief inside me instantly evaporated, replaced by a terrifying, absolute zero. The anger was not hot, it was liquid nitrogen. All paths to grace, counseling, or negotiation burned away in the clinical light of that glass suite. I looked at Catherine and Marcus. I did not shed a single tear. I told them to draft the injunctions, to seal the legal traps, and to prepare the execution. I was going to burn his parallel reality to ash, and I was going to do it using his own methodical rules. I coordinated the multi-party trap with the cold precision of a military operation. I booked a clean, soundproof executive conference room directly overlooking the federal courthouse square. The glass walls offered no shadows, no dark corners, and absolutely no places to hide. It was a terrarium built for his destruction. Under the pretense of a major joint portfolio update regarding our commercial properties, I requested Justin's presence at exactly 2 o'clock on a Friday. Separately, Catherine engineered a highly convincing trap. She sent an urgent, certified legal notice to Samantha Vance regarding a critical tax compliance signature required for Green Valley Consulting Group's registry, practically guaranteeing her panicked presence at the exact same table at the exact same hour. I arrived 30 minutes early. I arranged the data trail chronologically from left to right across the dark mahogany wood, dealing the documents out like tarot cards of doom. First, the signature mismatches on my father's estate waivers. Second, the forensic spreadsheets detailing the $720,000 transaction loop. Third, the newly unearthed property, deeds to a secret luxury lake asset titled entirely under Samantha's control. Justin arrived first. He walked in wearing his tailored navy suit, loosening his tie and cracking a casual joke about downtown traffic. He attempted to deploy his standard, smiling corporate risk assessment charm. He asked what all the heavy paperwork was about, leaning back in his leather executive chair with practiced ease. I said nothing. I just watched him. 3 minutes later, the heavy glass door clicked open. Samantha Vance walked in, clutching a designer leather briefcase, expecting a standard tax compliance meeting with a faceless auditor. She froze mid-step. Her eyes darted from Justin to me, and then down to the documents spread across the table. The atmospheric pressure in the room shifted instantly. Justin's calm, arrogant mask shattered into absolute, visible panic. He looked at Samantha, then down at the forged waivers bearing my father's name, his voice caught in his throat. He tried to speak, to spin a desperate, frantic lie about legitimate business consulting overhead, but his vocal cords failed him. The heavy glass door clicked open one final time. Catherine walked in precisely on cue, radiating absolute, lethal authority. She did not raise her voice. She simply slid 2 stark manila folders across the mahogany table. The first contained immediate, non-negotiable asset protection freeze orders, stripping Justin of his access to every single financial account. The second was an already signed, comprehensive divorce petition. I watched the blood drain completely from Samantha's face, leaving her lips stark white, as Catherine quietly reminded her that her license to practice law was now tied directly to a forged estate pipeline and federal tax fraud. Samantha did not hesitate. Proving there is absolutely no honor among thieves, she dropped her defensive posture, turned on her heel, and walked out of the room in absolute silence, abandoning him to save herself. Justin was left completely isolated, structurally defenseless, staring wide-eyed at the absolute ruins of his own arrogance. The structural aftermath was clinical and absolute. Over the next grueling months, the legal resolution systematically stripped Justin of his assets and his carefully curated illusions. The forged corporate waivers were ultimately thrown out by a judge who looked down at Justin from the bench with unconcealed contempt. Following the exhaustive asset division, the house we had lived in, along with the recovered $720,000, were fully consolidated back to my sole entity. Justin's career trajectory imploded overnight under the crushing public weight of an active financial fraud investigation. Without his pristine corporate standing or his stolen capital, he was forced into a cheap, cramped apartment, becoming a pathetic ghost of the man I once thought I knew. I reclaimed my father's full financial lineage, legally insulating it forever from anyone who would seek to exploit it. The following spring, I comfortably registered my standalone commercial architectural rendering firm, signing the lease on a beautiful downtown studio with exposed brick walls flooded with bright, natural light. I stand by the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new office now, looking directly out at the morning view of the skyline, and I realize something fundamental about survival and self-worth. I have come to realize that loneliness is not your enemy. A predatory partner who uses your peace as an anesthetic is the true parasite that eats away at your soul. For years, I believed that maintaining a quiet, stable marriage was the ultimate goal, even when the foundation felt slightly off. But when a relationship turns into a project of active extraction, your silence is not love. It is compliance in your own destruction. The hardest truth I had to swallow was that forgiveness is not always for the other person. Sometimes, it is the only way to set yourself free from their toxic narrative. But freedom requires action. True empowerment is never born from screaming, chaotic vengeance in a grocery store parking lot. It is built with meticulous paper trails, absolute emotional containment, and the courage to stop begging for respect from people who only ever saw you as a resource to be mined. I learned that true reclamation looks like a clean, irrefutable document filed in absolute silence. It looks like trusting your own intellect over their manufactured illusions. If you watch this entire blueprint unfold until the very last second, thank you for standing firm in this space. If you believe that truth and clear boundaries matter more than a comfortable illusion, please hit that subscribe button, share this video with one person who needs the courage to look at the facts tonight, and leave a comment below with where you are watching from. Let us keep building our foundations on solid ground.